Andrea Jensen, wearing a bright smile, navigated her BMW along the Atlanta highway. She knew she'd have to head home later than expected, but she chalked it up to the infamous traffic jams the city was known for. To her, the delay felt like wasted time, and she blamed the snarls on Atlanta's notorious congestion. The man she had been seeing was nearly a decade younger than her, a fantastic lover and engaging conversationalist. His charm and remarkable ability to bounce back after their intimate moments were undeniable as she drove away from the city. But gradually, her thoughts began to wander away from Ryan. Despite his appeal, her heart still held spaces for Michael and Casey. Her daughter, Andrea, couldn't wait to spend time with them, especially now that she felt completely fulfilled. She was well aware of her moods and made a conscious decision to be patient and affectionate towards Michael. As she approached home, her smile radiated the feeling of having the best of both worlds. However, upon pulling into the driveway, she noticed that her husband's pickup truck was conspicuously absent from the garage, which struck her as odd and unexpected. This revelation shifted her mood. She had hoped Michael would be there to welcome her home after her long journey. Instead, the house lay silent and empty. While contemplating where Michael and Casey might be, she suddenly remembered that her phone had been off since dinner. Distracted, she hadn't even realized that no one had reached out to her. She decided to power on her phone, pulling herself back into reality. Meanwhile, Michael congratulated himself once again for successfully pulling off a simple yet brilliant surprise for his wife. He had known about her conference in Atlanta for months. Andrea attended this event twice a year, and by chance, this particular conference coincided with their 20th wedding anniversary. A few weeks prior, Michael had been approached about constructing a large vacation home for a family in Atlanta. After wrapping up the business portion of the meeting with Paul Ellis, the client, Michael revealed an idea that had recently sparked in his mind. On the 10th of next month, our anniversary, my wife will be in downtown Atlanta for her conference. I'd love to surprise her and her colleague with a nice dinner at a good restaurant near her hotel. To add a special touch, Michael mentioned, I bought a beautiful pearl necklace that I plan to present to her at the table during dinner. My daughter could help organize this for you, Paul. She's in college now and knows all the best spots in the city. She can ensure the necklace makes it into my wife's hands. Paul chuckled. Sounds like you're aiming to hit the jackpot when your wife gets back. Why not just go to Atlanta with her and deliver it yourself? Michael explained, I've suggested that before, but Andrea insists she's too busy to spend time with me. She'll have a late dinner and rush back to her hotel to rest. I have commitments here, and it seems a bit foolish to travel so far just to be ignored. I have another idea, Michael continued, handing Paul a thought. What if I treat your daughter and her friend to dinner? If she could sit at the table next to Andrea and send me a live video on Facebook, I'd love to see the look of surprise on my wife's face when she opens the necklace box. I'll give you my daughter's number, and you can coordinate everything with her. Paul responded, I'm sure she'll be excited to help make this happen. Michael had arranged for several pizzas to be delivered to his home for a party celebrating their 20th anniversary. He invited his parents, Andrea's parents, his brother and sister-in-law, as well as Andrea's younger divorced sister. Everyone anticipated the moment when he would surprise Andrea with her anniversary gift. Michael's 16-year-old daughter, Lila, was also present with a group of her friends. He had set everything up so they could watch the video on a big-screen TV. Paul's daughter would sit as close to Andrea as possible without raising any suspicions. She was tasked with sending live videos to him via Facebook. Michael had even paid the waiter to deliver the wrapped gift after Andrea and her colleagues had ordered their meals, ensuring that everyone could witness Andrea's reaction in real time. This is going to be the best anniversary ever, especially considering the distance between us, Michael said with a beaming smile. I've set it all up so there won't be any sound from our end. Feel free to comment, especially about how great my idea is. Who's that guy sitting with your mom? Lila asked, her curiosity piqued as Andrea appeared on screen. hand in hand with a strikingly handsome young man. "Didn't you say she was with Karen?" Lila continued, confused. "I'm not sure who he is," Michael admitted, his voice tinged with unease. "He looks like a pretty close friend." Andrea's father let out a disapproving grunt and frowned at Michael's words as the couple settled into their seats. Everyone gathered around Michael's TV could easily eavesdrop on the conversation. "It's so nice of your husband to cover dinner tonight," the unknown man said with a grin. "I'll do my best to make this anniversary unforgettable, even better than your honeymoon," he added. "Then you better order a steak," Andrea replied with a playful grin. "You'll need your strength. Our honeymoon was legendary." "Is that true?" the man asked, intrigued. "Did you have a lover back then? Or did your husband manage to hit the right notes?" "Michael did a fantastic job. Thanks for asking," Andrea replied casually. "You're the only lover I've had in the last 20 years, not counting Michael, of course. Luckily for me, he started to slow down. The upside is you'll have a much better 20th anniversary tonight than most women do." "I'll take care of everything," the man assured her. "Maybe we should change the channel," Lila suggested nervously. "This isn't exactly fair. Andrea has no idea what we're watching or listening to. Why don't we turn it off?" "Michael, we don't want to miss Andrea's reaction when she gets her necklace," someone insisted. A determined but blushing Michael replied, "Let's stick around for this train wreck a little while longer." As the couple continued to place their orders, everyone listened intently. As the waiter departed with the menu, Andrea called out to Ryan, excitement bubbling inside her. A different waiter soon approached, holding a beautifully wrapped package. "Look, Michael must have sent me an anniversary gift," she exclaimed with delight, eagerly tearing into the wrapping. "Isn't it stunning?" she asked, her eyes lighting up at the sight of the pearl necklace. "Could you help me put it on?" she requested. "Of course. Just lean in a little," Ryan replied, carefully fastening the necklace around her neck. After completing his task, his hands briefly brushed against Andrea's chest. "Your husband is such a romantic. You're really lucky to have a handsome man like him," remarked an elderly woman at the nearby table. "True on both counts," Ryan agreed, grinning. "She's got a romantic husband and a charming boyfriend." Andrea shot Ryan a glare, but the older woman simply laughed at his remark. "I gave you a pearl necklace last night that's far better than this one," Ryan joked, leaning down to plant a kiss on Andrea's lips. "That's the difference between a husband and a lover," Andrea quipped with a sultry smile. "Husbands gift us jewelry, while lovers give us the real thrill." Suddenly, a beautiful redhead, who must have been Paul's daughter, whispered as she switched off her phone, "I should have stopped earlier, but I was so shocked I went into a daze. I'm really sorry it turned out this way. I'll erase everything from my phone now. I have to leave." With that, the TV screen went dark, leaving the room in stunned silence. Lila's friend was the first to break the quiet. "It's getting late. We should head out. See you tomorrow at school." "If I even go," Lila responded, tears glistening in her eyes. "Dad, can I go home with my friends? I really need to be with them right now." "Of course, honey, I understand. We'll talk tomorrow." "Drive safely, girls," Michael said, his throat tight with emotion. He didn't know what else to say. Andrea's mother began to speak. "I think we all understand what just unfolded here. Andrea loves you, Michael, and she's willing to do anything for Lila. Please don't act impulsively." The other guests echoed similar sentiments as they quietly discussed the situation. After a few moments of hushed conversation, Michael made his choice. "I need some time to think," he said decisively. "Everyone, please find your way out and let me have a moment alone to consider my options." Once the guests had left, Michael pulled out his suitcase and began to pack. Andrea was taken aback by the flood of messages and missed calls on her phone since she had turned it off the previous evening. As she scrolled through the notifications, her heart sank. Her sister and mother were demanding to know who Ryan was and why she seemed so close to him. They insisted that she had shattered Michael's heart, and Casey was equally distraught. Her mother and sister had sent her at least a dozen frantic messages. Andrea quickly checked for any messages from Michael, only to find none. How did her family learn about Ryan? And just how much did they really know about Michael and Casey? How could she possibly dig herself out of this mess? She needed to understand exactly what Michael knew and what he merely suspected. "Mom, it's me," Andrea began as calmly as she could manage. "I'm sorry. I turned off my phone last night. I see you try to reach me. Is there something about Michael? Only if you consider the loss of your husband, the alienation of your daughter, the disgrace to your parents, and the behavior of an outright fool to be something. Michael, I'm guessing it doesn't bother you too much. Otherwise, you wouldn't be flaunting a pearl necklace from your boyfriend." Her mother's words stung. "Michael gave me this pearl necklace for our anniversary," Andrea countered defensively. "Why should this upset you? Your father and I have watched enough old adult films to understand the implications." "What? Your boyfriend said you were wearing his pearl necklace." "Andrea, that's not subtle," her mother replied sternly. "What makes you think I would ever do something like that?" Andrea shot back, a knot forming in her stomach. "Why do you think I have a boyfriend? Don't play games with me." "I'm not naive," her mother growled. "Michael invited us to watch you open your 20th anniversary gift at the restaurant. He reserved a table for you and your colleague." "What was her name? Karen?" "We saw the entire viral episode. Your husband treats you like royalty, and you don't appreciate him," her mother continued. "You said it yourself. Husbands give jewelry, and lovers give climaxes. Did you hear me say that?" "Aftershock," Andrea muttered. "How could this happen?" "Michael asked some friend's daughter to stream live from her phone. He wanted us to see how happy you would be with his gift, and we were all set to call and congratulate you on your anniversary," her mother said sadly. "Looks like this could be your last anniversary, at least with Michael. Maybe you'll reconnect with your favorite boy when things settle down." "Mom, you know I love Michael. That other guy means nothing to me. It was just a way to pass the time. These conferences have gotten so dull," Andrea insisted. "Oh, this changes everything," her mother replied sarcastically. "Michael will feel so much better knowing that his wife was just bored, right?" Andrea shot back. "I assume you left your logic at home. There's no point in you calling me names. How can I convince Michael that he's the only man I truly love?" "You didn't convince me," her mother replied coolly. "So, you have a lot of work to do. Watching you with that man was one of the worst things I've ever witnessed. I seriously doubt Michael is feeling any better." After her conversation with her mother, Andrea reflected on her situation. Her entire family had witnessed and heard everything she and Ryan had discussed during dinner the previous night. As she recalled her conversation with Ryan, the gravity of her predicament hit her. She decided to reach out to Casey. "Casey, where are you?" Andrea asked when her daughter answered the call. "I'm with Ava. She's trying to comfort me because my family is falling apart," Casey replied, her voice heavy. "We're not falling apart. Please come home so we can talk about this," Andrea urged. "Where's Dad?" Casey asked uncertainly. "He moved to a cottage by the lake," Casey responded. "I don't think he wants to see you. He was so excited last night when he invited everyone to watch you open your gift. You practically ripped his heart out by showing up with your lover instead of Karen." "Please come home," Andrea repeated, desperate to figure out how to win back Michael's forgiveness. After hanging up with Casey, Andrea started to survey the house, her mind racing with thoughts of what to do next. Andrea noticed that Michael's office was missing a laptop and several filing cabinets. The closet in their bedroom stood completely empty, echoing the void of Hubbard's mother's closet. Fighting back tears, she aimlessly wandered through the house, taking note of the missing items. Notably, Michael hadn't taken a single photograph of her presence, a realization that weighed heavily on her heart. Looking for a distraction from the collapse of her marriage, Andrea decided to prepare dinner for Casey. By the time Casey walked through the door, Andrea had managed to whip up a small meal. Casey, however, was sullen and only engaged in conversation when directly asked a question, giving short, clipped responses. Andrea admitted to herself that her daughter had every right to be upset with her, but she hoped that over time, the animosity would fade, even if just a little. The following morning, as dawn broke, Andrea stepped into their lake house and found Michael slumped uncomfortably on the small couch, passed out. Empty beer cans littered the floor around him. "Michael, honey, we need to talk." "Wake up, please," she urged gently. Michael slowly opened his eyes and groaned, eventually rising without uttering a word as he headed to the bathroom. While she waited for her husband to return, Andrea decided to brew some coffee. A few minutes later, Michael emerged from the shower, and Andrea placed a steaming mug in front of him, hoping he would take the lead in their difficult conversation. But her hopes quickly faded as it became clear he had no intention of initiating any dialogue. "Michael, I'm so sorry this happened. I truly love the pearls. They're a beautiful gift that I will always treasure. It's a shame I didn't know you'd share everything with your family. It would have been nice if you'd mentioned it to me," Andrea said, trying to open the lines of communication. Was all Michael managed to say, and Andrea felt a surge of anger at his dismissive tone, as if he was trying to paint her as the abuser in this situation. Andrea was taken aback and hurt by Michael's response. In all their years of marriage, he had never spoken to her in such a disrespectful way. His words were stark evidence of the pain she had inflicted on him. "That won't help," she replied calmly. "Tell me, what can I do to fix this? You're the only man I've ever truly loved, and I know you haven't changed. Together we can face this," she continued. "What specific problem are we trying to solve here?" "The problem," Michael replied coldly, "is that I surprised you with an anniversary gift at a nice restaurant, where I booked a table for you and a friend. The problem is that my client's daughter agreed to record your reaction live. The issue is that I foolishly thought you'd appreciate this gift." "Please clarify what you mean," Michael said, his tone calm, yet icy. "You know what the problem is," Andrea insisted. "Last night, you saw me with Ryan in the restaurant. I know you have dinner with others occasionally. Why do you think this is a problem?" "Surely you know why this is a problem," Michael replied, his frustration growing. "I told you I was going out with Karen, but I actually went with Ryan. You overheard our conversation and learned we slept together. That's the real issue we need to address." Andrea blushed, recognizing that in her current position, she couldn't take an offensive stance. "To be clear, is the problem that I, along with your family, overheard your conversation? Or is it that you had sex with another man?" "The problem is my behavior," Andrea admitted, her cheeks reddening. "You were just trying to be nice to me and ruin our anniversary. You didn't do anything wrong, Michael." "Okay, we're making progress. Now tell me, why did you cheat on me behind my back? For how long? How many men have you been with?" Michael demanded, his voice rising. "Is Casey even my biological daughter? Should I be wondering if the mailman is her father?" Michael's provocative question sparked a reaction from Andrea. "There's no need to be vulgar or offensive. Of course, she's your daughter. Ryan has been the only lover I've had since we started dating. And your comment about how many men I've been with? That was just cruel." "I'm struggling to grasp your logic here," Michael countered. "You admit to being a cheater, yet you want to draw a line regarding how big of a cheater you are. You expect me to be polite and understanding, even gullible, when you tell me you're just one man's lover. Are you proud of that? By the way, how long have you been sleeping with Ryan? How often did you forget to mention these crucial details?" Michael pressed on. "When did you start refusing the title of city mayor?" "This was the third conference we've slept together at," Andrea confessed, tears welling up in her eyes as she finally began to grasp the depth of Michael's anger and humiliation. "Besides him, he's the only man I've been with since we got married 20 years ago. 2 nights together at each of the 3 conferences," Michael stated flatly. "Have you ever slept with him anywhere else?" "No," Andrea replied firmly. "It happened a total of 6 times, and I deeply regret it. I owe you an apology. Are you saying that a young guy like Ryan only managed to handle you once? A night with a beauty like you?" Michael shot back, disbelief in his voice. He never had you more than once a night? Who cares? Honestly, we probably did it 3 times every night, Andrea replied, feeling increasingly overwhelmed. Now for the big question, Michael announced, his voice steely. Why did you sleep with another man? Was sex with me so unfulfilling, so mundane, that you needed to find a younger, more exciting lover? Of course not. I was bored, and he pursued me relentlessly. I turned out to be weak. It's not about our sex life. It's about my vanity. Maybe it's a midlife crisis. He means nothing to me, I swear, Andrea explained desperately. It's clear you had sex with a man who meant nothing to you, Michael reiterated. Did you sleep with Mr. Jenkins, the guy down the street with those ridiculous shirts? Of course not. I hardly know him, and I find him repulsive. Andrea defended herself, growing increasingly frustrated. But you just told me you sleep with men who mean nothing to you, Michael pressed. So why not sleep with him? I didn't say that. I don't sleep with every man who means nothing to me, she exclaimed, feeling the weight of her choices pressing down on her. Andrea explained, her voice shaking with emotion. I slept with Ryan because he's handsome, charming, and successful. He pursued me relentlessly. Are you saying you'll only cheat on me with good-looking, successful men who go after you? Michael asked, his brow furrowing. Aside from a few of those guys, are you really a faithful wife? If you don't love the men you sleep with, doesn't that mean you don't love me? Michael pressed. No, I made a terrible mistake, and it won't happen again, Andrea said earnestly. I love you, but not Ryan. How can I be sure of that? Michael asked quietly. At our wedding and several times throughout the years, you promised to be faithful to me. You're a beautiful woman, and handsome, successful men will always be after you. I can't trust you. I can't even give you the incredible sex you crave so much, he said, his tone revealing his hurt. Don't ever think like that, Michael. I love our intimacy. It's special and makes me feel cherished, Andrea replied, her heart aching. How did it make you feel? Michael asked softly. To keep going back to him? Dirty. Used. I didn't feel like a mother or a wife, she admitted, shame flooding her cheeks. It was Michael who hooked me, not love, she confessed, clearly embarrassed. What did you do with him, and how? Michael inquired quietly. What does it matter? I love only you. Andrea protested, clearly flustered. I need some time to think, he said. You stand here and tell me you love me. Not him, but you had sex with him. It's hard for me to accept that you'd be willing to do so much more for someone who means nothing to you than for the person you love. Michael reasoned. You haven't told me you wanted to please me in a long time. I thought maybe you'd lost interest. Yes, what kind of married man would want that from his wife, especially when she gives it out like candy? Michael recalled bitterly. You told me on our honeymoon that I'd be the only man you loved. Michael, that was a long time ago. You and I had so much fun back then, she said, trying to defend herself. Everything was about us, and he never spoke about you. I would never allow that. Andrea, you seem to have forgotten that I overheard several minutes of your conversation. That was insulting. You went along with it. Remember how I slowed down? I thought you wanted to give me a better 20th anniversary than most wives. You didn't object, did you? Why are we wasting time here? Michael suddenly demanded. Did you find someone new? I accepted that, but it looks like you should do the same. Why pretend you want to stay married? It's clear you didn't enjoy being my wife. And let's not even discuss our intimacy. You're beautiful, successful, and intelligent, while I feel like I bring nothing to the table. It was only a matter of time before you sought something better. Congratulations, you found it. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. Michael, we can't end this conversation on such a note. We need to discuss everything and find a way back to each other, Andrea tearfully pleaded. You can ask your lawyer to talk to mine. It's over between us, Andrea. You left me no choice, he replied firmly. That day, Andrea went to work, but was confronted in the break room by an irate Karen. Why did Michael ask me about going with you to Atlanta for a conference? You know, I stopped writing. Then, after you decided to spend your nights with Romeo from the Chicago office. I don't want to be used as a cover for your infidelity. Did Michael call you in? What did you tell him? Andrea asked, feeling dejected. The truth. I didn't attend the last two conferences. I thought you told him we were sharing a room and spending time at the conference together. I don't like being used like that, Karen said, her frustration evident. That won't be a problem anymore, Andrea admitted. Michael found out everything on this trip. I think he's going to divorce me. What other outcome could you expect? Karen demanded. No decent man could accept that level of disrespect. I was too damn stupid and self-centered to even think about Michael finding out, Andrea confessed. He moved out. Don't you think you made a choice when you slept with that sleazy guy from Chicago? Karen asked, her tone softening. I'm sorry you're in this position, Michael, but I warned you this would happen if you kept going like this, Karen continued. It wasn't me who told him if that's what you think, Karen added. I know, Karen. I owe you an apology. I abused your friendship, and I'm sorry for not listening to you. I don't deserve a man like Michael. After discovering Andrea's betrayal, Michael took the day off work, determined to move all his belongings to the lake house before she returned home. He didn't want to hear her reasons or excuses for cheating. The thought of living without Andrea pained him, but he knew he could never forgive her callous disregard for his feelings, nor her ambivalence about loyalty and respect. When she unexpectedly visited him the following morning, it only highlighted the vast emotional chasm between them. She had nothing to say that could help him forgive her betrayal. He made an appointment with a lawyer for the next day. The following morning, as he prepared to leave the office for that meeting, a new email popped up. It was from Andrea. He hesitated, wondering if he should read it or delete it. After some internal debate, he opened the letter. In her typical fashion, Andrea faced the issue head-on. Michael felt nothing but despair as he read her message. Michael, I know I really messed up this time. I was so foolish, thinking you'd never find out and that my actions wouldn't hurt you. I was wrong for lying and cheating, destroying our marriage. Even if one partner is unaware, you deserve so much more. I have never wanted anything in my life as much as I want your forgiveness. But I won't challenge your decisions regarding our marriage. I've lost my right to have a say. I love you and wish you nothing but the best. You are a wonderful man, husband, and father. This is all on me, and I accept that truth. While I feel terrible for what I did to us, I know I've hurt you beyond repair. Michael fought back tears as he read Andrea's heartfelt confession and plea for forgiveness. It was typical of her to accept blame for her actions once she had time to reflect on the situation. She had always been someone who demanded the best from others as well as herself. Feeling empty inside, Michael saw no reason to respond to the letter. He had nothing left to say. After that morning, when Andrea arrived at Michael's lake house, her only source of information about him was their daughter, Lila. On Friday afternoon, Lila called Andrea to inform her that she was heading to her dad's cabin for the weekend. Michael would bring her home on Sunday evening. Realizing that this was how life would continue, Andrea spent a miserable weekend ruminating on how badly she had messed up her life. She had no clue how to fix her mistakes, or even if it was possible. Had she completely ruined her once happy marriage? When Lila returned home Sunday evening, she looked particularly glum. Dad decided to divorce you. He can't live with someone who has lost all respect for him. I saw him cry several times this weekend. I've never seen him like that in my life. Do you have any idea how much you've hurt him? Your boyfriend is probably a lot better than your dad, Lila added bitterly. He's not my boyfriend, and he's no match for your father, Andrea replied, taken aback. It was a huge mistake, and I deeply regret it. Your father is the best man I've ever known. Forgive me for being skeptical, Lila retorted. This isn't the first time you've slept with that jerk, right? You've been deceiving us for years, haven't you? Andrea realized it was time to stop lying to her family. I slept with him during 2 conferences before this last one. It was wrong, and I apologize, she confessed. Was it wrong? Lila objected angrily. That's putting it mildly, don't you think, Mom? You betrayed Dad in the worst way possible. Didn't you vow to be faithful when you married him? Did you cross your fingers at that moment, hoping it wouldn't count? I know you're upset with me, but not as much as I am. Your father is a wonderful man and a great dad. You know that. What I did doesn't mean I think any less of him. I acted very stupidly, Andrea admitted, her voice laced with sadness. As you say, Lila replied coldly, retreating to her room as Andrea returned to work. Things turned monotonous. She and Lila barely spoke to each other. Her job became her life raft. Everything there remained stable, except for Karen's cold demeanor toward her. Andrea attended Lila's school events, but usually sat alone unless her mom accompanied her. Those events were the only time she saw Michael, and he always positioned himself as far away from her as possible. Other parents quickly caught on to the fact that they were getting a divorce, and Andrea periodically overheard fathers, both single and married, make lewd comments and suggestions about her. It was clear that news of Andrea's infidelity had spread throughout the community. Meanwhile, Michael threw himself into his business. This was the one silver lining of the entire fiasco. He knew that Andrea would get half of the business, and his lawyers suggested various tactics to reduce her share. However, Michael refused to consider any of them. If it weren't for her, we wouldn't have anything to share. I won't deny the facts. Andrea worked alongside me and even contributed part of her salary to keep us afloat when we first took over the family business, he insisted. Andrea was shocked when her lawyer explained how Michael was planning to give her half of his ownership in the business. A few years earlier, during a cash flow crisis, the company had been purchased by Michael's best friend, Tom, who became a silent partner, owning a third of the company while giving half of his share to Andrea. This left Michael in a vulnerable position. He owned and controlled only a third of the business. Tell Michael this is too much, Andrea insisted to her lawyer. He's the one who dedicated all his time and energy to the business. If he insists on giving me a share, tell him I agree to only 1/10 of what we own. He can maintain control without any potential disputes. Michael was nothing if not stubborn. When the snow melted the following spring, Andrea became a single woman again and a third owner of Jensen Enterprises. She couldn't even convince Michael to talk to her on the phone. He had completely cut her out of his life. Lila informed Andrea that she wanted to spend the summer between her junior and senior years of high school at the lake house with her father. Andrea recognized this as another attempt by Lila to punish her, but she accepted that she had earned her daughter's disdain. Michael, for his part, was thrilled. He began planning to nearly double the size of the cabin since he owned a construction company. By the end of July, he had completed the renovations, transforming it into a 3-bedroom lake house, each room with its own bathroom and a lovely view of the lake. It was now a completely modernized and comfortable space. During the first weekend of August, Michael hosted an open house for his friends and neighbors at the lake. All of Lila's friends were invited, and one of them brought along an older cousin who caught Michael's attention. She had striking blonde hair and wore a modest 2-piece swimsuit that complemented her figure beautifully. Throughout the day, Michael noticed that this girl was often near him, laughing at his jokes and flirting with him whenever she got the chance. "Well, Dad, are you trying to get into a little bikini party?" Lila teased one day when they were alone in the kitchen. "Of course not," Michael protested. "She can't be older than 25, and I haven't decided to start dating yet." "She's 27 and seems very interested in you," Lila replied with a knowing smile. "She's been asking how long you've been single, how old you are, and what you do for a living." "Everything women want to know about potential husbands," Michael remarked dryly. "I just met her today, so don't even think about mentioning the word marriage to me," he added, shaking his head. "I tried that once, and it was more than enough. I'm not hinting at anything like that. She seems interested, though. I wouldn't mind if you dated her. She's really sweet. And you need someone to help you forget your mom, Lila suggested, her tone lighter. From what I've seen, Tina isn't in a hurry to get married. I think she's focused on her career right now, Michael replied. But that doesn't mean she isn't open to the idea of a little romance. Thanks for enlightening me, Michael joked with his daughter. This girl is too attractive to be interested in an old guy like me. But I appreciate your trust in me. Andrea's company occupied the top 2 floors of an office building in the business district. At the end of the block was a popular Italian bistro. Every Thursday, she would have lunch there with a few of her colleagues, maintaining an informal schedule. It was common for them to see familiar faces dining at the same time each week. One afternoon, the bistro was unusually packed, and Andrea's group couldn't find a table. An employee from Benson Advertising, located on the second floor of their building, invited them to join at a large table. They quickly accepted the offer. After exchanging names, the conversation flowed easily. One of the women on the advertising team was especially attractive and very friendly, and Andrea found herself enjoying the young woman's infectious humor. She smiled as the other ladies began to tease her. Not all of us have a rich guy with a big house on Lake Henry, one of the women named Laura joked. It must be nice to wake up with the morning sun reflecting off the lake, another chimed in. Yes, the young woman agreed, especially with a handsome guy who gently caresses me. Getting out of bed can be such a hassle. If that's the guy who picked you up after work on Thursday, I can see why getting up might be a problem, another woman teased. He looks a little older than you, but he seems to be in good shape. Michael is all that and more, the young woman offered, beaming. He's a really good guy and a fantastic lover. Andrea's friend immediately posed the question Andrea dreaded. You're not talking about Michael Jensen, are you? Do you know him? The attractive young woman replied, smiling. You have to admit he looks good. Heck, he's a great guy, but he used to be Andrea's husband, her colleague said. I think we should change the subject, Andrea interjected, leaning toward the young woman and extending her hand. I'm Andrea Jensen. I didn't catch your name. Tina McCarthy, she replied. His ex-wife was beautiful, but I thought he was probably blinded by love. It turns out he didn't do justice to himself. I hope you won't be upset that I'm living with Michael now. I certainly can't blame you, or him, for that matter, Andrea answered honestly. You're a beautiful young woman with an amazing figure. I can understand why Michael would be drawn to you. I wonder why KC never mentioned anything about you. I can't speak for KC, but I just want to say that you raised your daughter well. She's very smart, attentive, and just as beautiful as her mother. I really enjoy it when she visits us, Tina concluded as the evening wore on. That night, Andrea questioned KC during dinner. Why didn't you tell me that your father has a beautiful girlfriend who's living with him? That's something I'd want to know. Honestly, Mom, I didn't mean to hurt your feelings. I know how you feel about that, Casey replied. I'm still upset that you cheated on him, but I didn't want to make you unhappy because of your poor choices. Tina is actually good for Dad. He finally seems happy again, Casey continued. This might surprise you, but I'm glad to hear that Michael is happy. He's a wonderful person who deserves to be with someone who loves him, even if it's not me. I don't think she loves Dad directly, but she really likes him. She made it clear that her career is her priority for the next few years. She wants to achieve great success in marketing. Aren't you going to start dating, Mom? You keep in touch with your boyfriend from the conferences. Do you think you can get along with him? Casey asked, referring to Ryan. Ryan is not the type of person I'd look for in a relationship, Andrea admitted. He's superficial, slightly rude, selfish, and vain. I never considered it anything more than entertainment. He turned my life into hell, even though I knew what I was doing. I shouldn't blame him for my weakness. Are you interested in anyone else? Casey pressed. You're still beautiful. I've noticed how some of the dads and teachers look at you and go out of their way to be polite during school events. Honestly, I think Michael ruined me for other men, Andrea replied with a sad smile. The reason for our divorce is common knowledge in the area. It makes women sympathize with your father, and men see me as an easy target. It was probably easy for Ryan, but I won't make that mistake again. I just don't understand how you could cheat on your father if you love him so much, Casey said, clearly surprised. He always treated you with love and respect. Something was off with Michael, Andrea admitted. I've asked myself that question. I think I started to take your father for granted. I knew he loved me, and I became overly confident in that love. This somehow led me to try another man, maybe because I felt I had a reliable anchor at home. Michael was my rock. He was always there for me. I foolishly believed he would always be there, that I could stray a little and he'd never find out. Yet, my devoted husband would still be home waiting for me. I pray you find a man like your father, someone ready to start a family, and use my experience as a cautionary tale. Never take more than you give in a relationship. Be faithful, dedicated, and honest. If something is bothering you, discuss it with your husband, Andrea reflected. I've shown you what happens when you lie and cheat. Occasionally, Andrea would run into Tina during lunch, and she was often surprised by how much she liked this woman. It embarrassed her to admit that she anxiously awaited any news about Michael. Lila, however, was reluctant to share too much about her father's life with Andrea. She couldn't divulge some of the more personal aspects of Michael's life. In contrast, Tina willingly discussed Michael with her friends. Andrea, it's obvious that you still love Michael, Tina remarked one day while they were having lunch together. He never speaks ill of you, but it's clear that you've hurt him deeply. I'm not here to judge you, but I have to say that I would never cheat if I were in a relationship. I find it hard to believe that you did, Tina continued. Everything I see and hear from you indicates that you love and respect him. Just remember this when the flame of passion fades and you get caught up in everyday life. I lost my way and paid for it, Andrea admitted. Love isn't always about wild sex and extravagant vacations. Sometimes it's deciding when to pump the septic tank or what color to paint the house. Everything becomes mundane, but that's normal. Michael is an honest businessman, a caring friend, and a wonderful father. I will always love him, but I betrayed him in the worst way a wife can. I've learned my lesson. Perhaps I woke up too late, Tina said. I told Michael last night that I accepted a position in Seattle and will be leaving in 2 weeks. This is a fantastic opportunity for me. I told him from the start that my career comes first, but I can see that my news upset him. I'm sharing this with you so you understand what he's going through and maybe can help him if he feels down. He's truly a great guy. He just isn't my forever boyfriend. I'm sure he will miss you very much, Tina continued. Michael doesn't act on a whim. If he invited you to live with him, it means he holds you in high regard, not just for your looks. At the same time, he is an astute businessman. I tested his limits, but he came through. He's really grown, Andrea said with a small smile. He'll miss you, but he's a great catch, and I doubt his bed will be empty for long. Exactly why I'm sharing this information with you first, Tina replied, returning the smile. What you do with it is entirely up to you. Just a week later, Michael's best friend and silent partner, Tom, asked Andrea to meet him for lunch at the bistro. The place was bustling, but they found a small table off to the side. After the usual greetings and pleasantries, Tom explained the purpose of his request. You know that piece of land Michael bought on Route 21 near the river? I do, Andrea replied, wondering how she was involved in this discussion. Well, I have a buyer willing to pay nearly $2 million for it. Michael bought it for next to nothing, so the profit would be enormous. Your third would be over $500,000, Tom informed her. Michael said the land could be held onto, and someday it will be worth much more. Is he going to sell it? Andrea asked, intrigued. That's the issue, Tom said. He thinks the company will benefit more if they lease it long-term. He wants the contract to state that his company will build whatever the tenant needs for their business. That sounds just like Michael, Andrea admitted with a smile, thinking about how astute he was with business. I'm sure he's crunched the numbers and found that plan to be more profitable in the long run. What's the problem? I think we should capitalize quickly by selling the land. Planning 10 to 15 years ahead is great, but I'd like to see the money now. You want a third of the company? I want a third too. Together, we could insist that Michael take the offer and then pay out their share of the profits. Michael won't get hurt. Heck, he'll walk away with $500,000 in cash, which should soothe any ruffled feathers, Tom proposed. Andrea felt her anger rising as she sat across from him. Are you asking me to betray Michael's trust? You think money means more to me than Michael's feelings? Let me tell you something. Michael would view this as a complete and utter betrayal from his wife and best friend. This would be the worst thing you could do to him, worse than his wife sleeping with some young guy at a conference. You're his ex-wife for a reason. You've already betrayed him. He divorced you for cheating. This is a chance to get a little revenge while making a good chunk of money, Tom reasoned. We both know that description doesn't suit you. I betrayed Michael, and I acknowledge that, Andrea replied, suppressing her rage. I was foolish and selfish, but I never wanted to hurt him. He deserves better business partners than you, and I will ever be. That's why I will never betray him again. I'd rather lose every last penny than hurt Michael like that. I've proven that I was a lousy wife, but you're just proving that you're a bad friend and partner. Michael will control my share of the company for as long as I breathe. In fact, I'll make it a rule to ensure Michael gets my share after I die. You should know better than to underestimate his business skills, Andrea began, her anger bubbling up as she stood, placing money on the table to cover their lunch. But then she looked into Tom's eyes and added, Please don't try to steal this from him. Almost a month later, Andrea opened the door to find Michael standing on her porch, and she was taken aback. He had been avoiding her ever since she returned from that disastrous conference. Michael, come in. Everything's fine. Lila left a few minutes ago if you're looking for her, Andrea said, surprised at how excited she felt about Michael's unexpected visit. I'm here to talk, if you have a moment, Michael began as he stepped into the home that had been his for over 15 years. If you're busy, I can come back another time. I'm not busy, Andrea answered quickly. I just made coffee. Why don't we sit in the kitchen? I appreciate you letting me in so soon, Michael said, picking up a coffee mug. You always made excellent coffee when we first got married. I didn't even know how to brew it back then. It took me a while to figure it out, Andrea said with a grin. I didn't marry you for your coffee-making skills. You had other qualities that I found much more attractive, Michael countered, a teasing glint in his eye. I've never heard you refer to them as qualities, Andrea laughed. I recall you calling them Smith & Wesson a few times. Yeah, you brought out the big guns, and I was powerless to resist, Michael admitted with a smile. Tina must have you wrapped around her finger, or some other part of her body. There's definitely some serious heat coming from her, Andrea replied. I appreciate how well you treat Tina. She thinks you're a wonderful person. Her opinion of you was one of the reasons I'm here. A couple of weeks ago, one of her friends overheard your conversation with Tom during lunch. Tina mentioned it before heading to the West Coast. She believes your dedication and honesty have been exceptional. I have to agree. After the way I treated you during the divorce, you still flatly rejected Tom's advances. Many women whose husbands have divorced so quickly would seek revenge, or at the very least, some kind of payback. I would never do that to you, Michael. I know how hard you work on your projects and how much they mean to you. I also know you'll make sure that this land brings in significantly more income than Tom is anticipating, Andrea replied. He's a fool when it comes to you, she concluded. I appreciate your confidence in me. Tina helped me come to terms with the fact that you were my partner, even though I managed the business as if it were entirely mine. I need to give you the chance to express your opinions and say what you want to do, Michael said. If you want to sell this property and split the profits, I can agree to that. Tom is trying to convince me to sell it, Michael admitted. I think he doesn't have the funds. He believes that if we sell this land, each of us can walk away with $500,000 from the business without it affecting him. Would you like that too? Andrea asked, intrigued. I think you probably have a plan for this property that would yield good profits for the company and goodwill from the community, Andrea replied with obvious pride. You've never been one to chase a quick profit. You've always aimed to improve the area while making a solid income. You have something in mind for this land, right? I've been negotiating a long-term lease with General Hospital to build an emergency care complex on that site, Michael revealed. It won't be as lucrative as the luxury condominium project that Tom's company is pushing for, but it will still generate a decent profit, and we'll have a contract for the build. This will create jobs and foster goodwill in the community. I figured it would be something like that, Andrea said, feeling a touch smug. You're a good businessman, but you also invest in society. That sets you apart from people like Tom. He thinks it's better to chase quick profits. I don't agree with that mindset. As far as I understand, he approached you with his proposal, and you turned him down. I trust you unconditionally, Michael. You've never given me a reason not to trust you. I'll support your business decisions until the end, Andrea promised. It probably sounds strange since you know you can't trust me, but it's true. I've been thinking about how Tom is trying to interfere with your business. It occurred to me that we should buy him out. If he doesn't have the funds, he'll probably listen to a reasonable offer. You'd be happy, and you could run your business as you see fit. Andrea laid out her thoughts. I considered it, but I just don't have the funds to make it happen. Michael nodded in agreement. We could always sell this house, Andrea proposed. I could find a nice 2-bedroom apartment for Lila and me. Over the years, we've built up quite a bit of equity. The mortgage is nearly paid off, and you've made some significant improvements. That should be enough for us to get our lives back on track. Now that we're divorced, this is your home. Are you really ready to sell it and invest in the business? Michael asked incredulously. I can't say when I'll finalize the deal on the urgent care center. I can't promise you'll see your money back anytime soon, if at all. Do I look worried? Andrea teased. Remember, I was married to you for 20 years. You'll get everything back plus interest. If for some reason this doesn't pan out, that's fine. I owe you one, Michael. Money won't ever make up for my disrespect, but it could get you away from Tom. I'll agree to this. If you come and live with me and Lila at the house by the lake. Michael quickly added, you'll have your own room with a bathroom. It turned out really nice. I don't think that will work, Andrea replied, her voice tinged with sadness. This is about my personal life, not to mention dating and all the drama that would cause for you. Sorry, I didn't consider your social life. Michael apologized. Of course you wouldn't want to bring a guy into the house while your ex-husband is living there. Especially that guy, Ryan. It would be so awkward. I don't date, and I have no plans to start, Andrea shot back. I stopped going to conferences and haven't spoken to Ryan since that disastrous trip. If I'm around, it'll be nearly impossible for you to find someone who's willing to stay over when your ex is sleeping in the next room. Honestly, with me around, the chances of any woman moving in with you are slim. Though I can't completely rule it out. I've seen women fall for you. I divorced you because you slept with that guy. Then I moved Tina in with me. My behavior wasn't exactly a great example for Lila, was it? Michael posed rhetorically. I was just depressed and lonely. Another man took my wife, and my self-esteem was shot. Tina was there to pick up the pieces for me. I'm sorry I hurt your self-esteem. I wish none of this had happened. But I don't blame you for falling for Tina. She's a wonderful woman. You're a single man and free to pursue whatever relationship you want, Andrea said. I don't think I've ever properly apologized for my actions. None of this was your fault. It's all on my conscience. I truly messed up, and I genuinely regret the pain I caused you. You really hurt me, Andrea. I've never cheated. I live for you and Lila. I went from having everything to feeling like a complete failure, Michael confessed. Tina helped me see that even if I wasn't the perfect husband, I wasn't the reason for your infidelity. You could have told me you were unhappy with our marriage or our sex life. I would have done my best to improve things if I had known. I was just being stupid. I wasn't unhappy. You were a great husband, an amazing father to Lila, and a wonderful lover, Andrea admitted. I lost my way and deserve to be unhappy. It might sound strange, but being unhappy somehow makes me feel like I'm paying for my sins. Maybe you could at least come check out the house by the lake? Michael suggested, hoping to steer the conversation in a different direction. I'd like to get your thoughts. I incorporated some of the ideas we've discussed over the years into the renovations. I think you'll approve. Lila has a volleyball match in a couple of hours. Can we fit this in? Could we do it another time? Andrea asked. Let's look at it before the match. We can go together. Are you worried people might think we're getting back together if we go as a couple? She pointed out, noting how he typically sat as far away from her as possible. Yeah, I was a bit of an ass about it, Michael admitted. But to be fair, you left me and our marriage. You couldn't expect me to be friendly. Actually, you were much kinder to me than I would have been if the roles were reversed, Andrea conceded. Your settlement offer was too generous. We both know that kindness seems to be paying off, Michael grumbled. We're thinking about selling the house to invest in a dance studio, she revealed. I still find it hard to believe you're willing to do this. Honestly, Andrea, take anything of mine that you want. You've always been honest with me. I trust you won't hurt me, even though I deserve it, she said. Let me show you the lake house, Michael proposed, hoping to calm his swirling emotions. As he guided her through the house, Andrea admired the renovations. You really did an incredible job. Lila's room is huge and comes with its own bathroom. What a dream for any teenage girl, she remarked. When Michael showed her the second bedroom, she realized it was time to address the unspoken tension. It's a lovely room with another fantastic bathroom, but I can't stay here, Michael. It would be too painful to see you every day and be reminded of what I've lost. We'll sell the house, and I'll rent an apartment. I'll be fine. We need to head out soon for Lila's match. Just let me show you the master bedroom, Michael insisted. It's bigger than the others. I know you'll love it. It's beautiful. You did an amazing job, as always, Andrea praised as she took in the surroundings. It's clear why your business is so successful. You have a real eye for detail. Would you stay with me and Lila if you had this room? Michael asked pointedly. I'd still be seeing you every day, and I don't think I could handle that, she responded, sadness creeping into her tone. I didn't mean it would be just yours. I thought we could share it, Michael explained, a bit flustered. Andrea raised her eyebrows, examining Michael's face. Are you asking me to share your bed? Ever since I discovered your betrayal and left home, I've felt terrible. I miss you so much it sometimes hurts. You really messed up. I slept with Tina for months to try to ease that betrayal, but it never worked. I wonder if we can get past all this and attempt to be together again. I don't want to be a fallback, Andrea replied firmly. If you want to punish me further, then I won't do it. If I move in with you, I will be completely faithful and expect the same from you. No more young beauties in your bed. It'll just be me there, or I'll leave immediately. I've fought hard to regain my self-respect, and I intend to keep it. I love you, Michael, but you need to be fully on board, or I'm out. Lila was more surprised than anyone when she saw her parents walk into the gym, arms linked. She rushed over to speak with them discreetly. Mom, Dad, does this mean? Lila started, but Michael smiled and nodded before she could finish her question. Lila embraced her mother, holding her tight as she whispered into her ear, Welcome home, Mom. I love you, but don't ever cheat on Dad again. I have a friend with a single aunt who's even more beautiful than Tina.